You sit down. All right. Good morning, everybody. Today is Daf Tzadi Beis. Thank you. Thank you. No, I'm good. Today's Daf Tzadi Beis and the Mishnah was Matzia. So we got to the Mishnah. So we're going to attempt today. I know we start late because it's a Thursday, so if anyone has to leave early, it's Hashem, Bezos Hashem. We'll get to the we're going to get to the Mishnah on Tzadi Gimel Amud Aleph on top.
Amud Aleph now?
Yeah, Amud Aleph. There's a Mishnah, 5 lines on the top, and away we go. So I'll try to go a little fast or regular, but Eichel Poel Kishus. Eichel, you guys listening? We got. If you're here, everyone's here. So Eichel Poel Kishus. Afil b'dinar, kaiseves afil b'dinar. Says the Tanakama that a worker can go ahead and eat quiches, right, gourds or cucumbers, or dried figs, or even something that's very valuable. In other words, he is only making $10, but he's allowed to go ahead and eat $30 worth, right? It's okay. However, no, an employee cannot go ahead and eat more than his value of work, than his schar. And the Chum say it's mutter. They should teach him, don't go ahead and eat too much when you're hired as a worker. Why is that? Because no one's going to hire you again, right? They see they're supposed to pay, whatever, they're paying you $30 and it's costing them all that other money. So they're going to find somebody else for the same wages who doesn't go ahead and eat, eat too much. So that was the Mishnah. So the Chachamim isn't the same sheet as the Tanakama. Let's see what's going on in the Mishnah. So the Tanakama says a person's allowed to eat more, right? Came in Rabbi Eliezer and Chispa says you can't eat more than your wages. And then it says, the Chachamim says mutter. Right? So mutter meaning eat more than your wages, which sounds like the Tanakama. So Gemara's going to go ahead and give, I believe, 3 terutzim. Some say, no, avam aladim. No, but says the Chachamim, they say it's mutter, but we teach the worker not to go ahead and eat more. In other words, according to the Tanakama, less like malamdim. According to Tanakama, we don't say a word. He wants to go ahead and eat more. That's fine. You don't go ahead and give him a life lesson. The Rabbanan, he said malamdim. According to the Rabbanan, no. We do go ahead and teach him not to do it again because he's not going to get hired in the future. Or Ibo, saying, I'll give you number 2. Ikabaraya deravasi. Or some say the difference is the following statements of Ravasi. And what were those? Even if he was only hired to go ahead and cut off one cluster, he can go ahead and eat that one. And the Amar Ravasi, and also Ravasi says, even if the person was hired for the day and he was pretty lazy and he only went ahead and cut one cluster, he's allowed to go ahead and eat that one. And why did Ravasi need to say 2 statements? Both seemingly pretty similar. We need both these. If we just have the first one, he was only hired to cut one cluster and he can go ahead and eat that one, right? Because there are no others that he can go ahead and eat from. But if there are other ones that they can go to the owner, maybe it could be that first he has to go ahead and give to the owner and then take for himself. But if he was only hired to do one, so then he shouldn't give to the owner first, because then he'll never go ahead and be able to eat and fulfill the pasuk of the workers eating from what they're working on. And if you say we're talking about a case of the second one, so the Afshar, the Kumi B'Soif. In other words, the reason why he says if the guy only did one the entire day, but Lamaisa, he was supposed to do a lot of them. So therefore, you can go ahead and eat the first ones because there should have been other clusters for him to go ahead and harvest afterwards. But however, he's only hired to do one, and if he would go ahead and eat this one, there would be no others for the Balabayas, then Emalo. Therefore, I would say no. Therefore, it's Tzricha. Therefore, I need that case. So according to this, according to the Tanakama of our Mishnah, which says you can go ahead and eat more, so he would go ahead and subscribe to the to Ravasi. However, according to the Chachamim, they're responding to Rav Chisma. Rav Chisma says they can't go ahead and eat more, and therefore the Chachamim say, no. If you're hired to do a lot all day, right, then you can go ahead And if he happens to go ahead and eat more. But if you're not hired to work all day, then you can't go ahead and eat it. And therefore, perhaps that which they matter, they're only mattering if he's hired to eat all day, but he's only hired to do one cluster, then perhaps the Rabbanan would argue on the Tanakama and not hold like Ravasi. Or Iboy same. I can give you a third tier. It's Ika, but the Rav, that which Rav says, I'm a Rav, my Tasi Megillah, Sarim, I found the Reb Chia and Megillah, so there's different practices of Reb Chia. But also, but Itzi Ben Yehuda says over there, the Itzi Ben Yehuda Aimer, he darshan with the pasuk, Kisava Bekerem Riyacha, when you go ahead and you enter into the vineyard to work of your friend, the Bias called him because of a daber. Means over there that anybody can go in the field and work in the field and eat off the field. The Amarav, and it says Rav in this way, right? No one can survive, right? In other words, if you're telling me that if I need a meal, all I got to do is go in someone's yard and start working there, and then just go eat from his field, and I'm done, just walk out. So then no one's going to survive. Everyone's just be eating off people's fields for free, working a little, eating a lot, and then people won't be able to make a livelihood. It doesn't make any sense.
Sounds like today's day and age.
Yeah. So he said. And Amar Ravashi, so Ravashi says over there, Amrisa the Shmaitze commander of Kansas, so he says, no, over there, maybe we're talking about cases that, in other words, that maybe over there he went ahead and he in this case that people will go ahead and work for their meals. In other words, it says that if I go ahead and I work for your meal, then that person can do it. So nevertheless, so Amar Li, Afilu Hachi Nichale Li Shlo Eiger Agure V'Nikve LePardesa Lanisi Kuliyama V'Yachlebe. Right. So even if people just don't go ahead in people's fields to eat, right? Even if it's going to ahead and work for their meal, so that doesn't work. A person would rather go ahead and choose and hire his workers, right? So therefore, in this case, this could be the nafkamina. Knows the understanding is that a person wants to go ahead and hire workers versus anybody can go on a field and just eat from it. So the words of the Tanakama of our Mishnah was Eichel Paya, a worker. In other words, a worker's allowed to eat bar. So in other words, only once he's hired, then a person. So according to Tanakama, it's not whoever wants to go ahead and show up on the field and can eat there. It has to be a hired worker. However, according to Chachamim, they matter. Perhaps they hold like that which Rav said. Iboilu. Now comes the question of the day. This question will basically be discussed until the Mishnah on the top of Tzadi Gimel Aleph. So what is this question? Iboilu. Payal. This worker of ours. Mishalahu Eichel or Mishal Shemayim Eichel. That which he's allowed to go ahead. So I'm working in the field and I'm allowed to go ahead and eat from the grapes that I'm harvesting. Is it my grapes? In other words, that I've earned these grapes and therefore I am allowed to eat them? Or is it basically something that Hashem gives the rights to the person, and therefore Hashem allows it to, not that it's his own money? So the Gemara says, okay, it's a cute question. So the nafkamina, right? Anytime you want to understand something and say, okay, is it this way or that way? So, okay, give me a nafkamina, a difference as to which way it is. So what's the nafkamina? So he says, in other words, let's say I'm going to go ahead and work for you. I'm going to work on Mark's fields. I'm going to work for his vineyards. And I say, instead of me eating, my wife and my kids they'll get my grapes I was supposed to eat. So if it's, in other words, it's basically a right and I'm earning it, and therefore I can go ahead and do with the grapes as I please. I can go ahead and give it to my wife and kids. But if you say that the Torah says that this is a right of a worker, so but if it's a right that Hashem gives the worker, so then it's only a right to give the worker to satiate him while he's working, but I can't go ahead and give that to somebody else. So which one is it? Is it Hashem's entitles the worker to go ahead and eat, and partake of it, or is it like something that the employee earned? What do you mean?
The owner of the field.
Well, he has to give, right? The Torah says he has to provide the grapes, right? So if the guy says, "Look, I'm going to eat a pound of grapes, right, while I work, let me just give the pound to my wife," right? So can one do that if it's mine? In other words, it's part of my benefits of an employee, and therefore I have every right to go ahead and take it because it's like my money. Then I can go ahead and assign it to my wife. But if it's something that Hashem says we don't want workers to be hungry, right? And therefore he can go ahead and eat a pound of grapes. So that doesn't mean I can go ahead. Well, I'm not going to go ahead and eat it. Let me give it to you. That's not how it works.
Yeah, but you're saying it as if there's a specific amount, there's no specific amount.
Right, but he says, okay, let them eat instead of me eating. I mean, the Gemara is going to be throwing a lot of things at this. We'll soon try and understand. So let's see. So Tashma, and we're going to bring several previous examples that we've already read. So Tashma, come listen. Eichel payel kishus. Let's start with our Mishnah. So a worker is allowed to go ahead and eat kishus v'afila b'dinar kaseves v'afila b'dinar. So a worker can go ahead and eat even very expensive foods like gourds and figs, even if they cost a dinar, which is more than his wages. So if you're saying that in other words it's part of his stipend, his work, so I understand. So I give a danka. I don't know what kind of businessman allows someone to go ahead and work for $5 and allows them to eat $30. Right? Doesn't make any business sense, of course. So obviously it has to be Hashem's gives them that right. So so what are you going to say? Michel Shemaim hu oichel, right? What they're Hashem's, right? So they give a danka achel zuzay. So even if it's Hashem gives them the right, so why? In other words, it doesn't make sense. Elamai zechalei. We're waiting to say Rachman zachile. The Torah allowed him to go ahead and eat $30 worth, even though he's working $5. So Hachinami Rachman zachile. So too that even if it's his money, he's working for $5. He can go ahead and eat $30. We're at the third last skinny line on Sadi Bey's Amud Aleph. So therefore, the Gemara once again deflects this question. So Tashma, come listen, Rabbi Ezra Chitzma Imer lo yochel po yisas charo v'chaim matim. So then the next case of the Mishnah is that the Rabbi Ezra Chitzma says that a worker should not go ahead and eat more than his wages. And Chachamim says mutter. So my la v'alkamifli is that what this is arguing about? Tamar sav mishlo oichel. That one opinion holds that in other words he's eating his own, and therefore since he's eating his own. Therefore, we'll say that Rabbi Ezra ben Chisma says he cannot eat more than his wages. That says it's Hashem's. It's not a financial equation, and therefore Hashem says he's zaych. He can eat it's mutter to eat even more than your work. No, everyone holds. You can say that even if it's his own. Over here, we're arguing actually. And can you darshan the word of nafshecha? Mar savar kanafshecha. The davar shemais and nafshecha love. One holds that since over there you can darshan the word nafshecha, and therefore this guy is climbing the tree, he's risking his life. So therefore that he's able to go ahead and eat whatever he likes. Umar savar, the other one holds, and therefore he's allowed to go ahead and eat more than he's assigned. Umar savar kanafshecha. Ma nafshecha yichasamta pater. Af poyel im chasamta pater. The other one says no. We used the word nafshecha before, but just like the owner allowed to muzzle himself, so too he can muzzle his human worker, right? So therefore, this word benafshika is not available to go ahead and darshan, and therefore you say that the worker has no right to go ahead and eat more than his wages. So Tashma, come listen. Let's say this case. Nazir Shamar Tnu Leishti Ubanov, give to I'm working on the grape fields and the vineyards, but I can't go ahead and eat it because I'm a Nazir. So you know what? Give it to my wife and my kids. Ein Shemin Lo. We do not listen to him. And if you're saying it's his, Amai Ein Shemin Lo. Why is it not his? If it's something that he earns, that he should be able to go ahead and give to them. So our answer is no.
Potentially couldn't his wages be, since he said tells the guy, I'm not gonna be able to eat, so you should pay me more. In theory, that could
no, so that you can't do. So that's it's a right. It's not like nowadays. And I'm not taking insurance, so pay me more, right? Yeah. So no. So I mean that is a little bit is sort of the question. The question is this something that he earns, and therefore it's or is it something he earns, or is it a right? Right? A right you can't give over the rights to somebody else. That's Hashem gave me a right to eat, right? Or is it something I earn? Is it a benefit, and therefore the benefit I can give to somebody else? So the Gemara says, "Ain't sholo." So you don't listen to him. Why? It must be because it's a right from Hashem. It's not a benefit. So we're answering no hasam shum lech amrin and naziris the karmel secret. Now over there, there's a special halacha that we distance a nazir from wine and grapes and all that. I mean, the real question is why is he working in a vineyard, right? But normally, if he wants to go ahead and bring it in, we say no, don't send your family, because if you send your family, then you might come ahead and eat it, and therefore that's the reason. It has nothing to do with whether it's a right or a benefit, right? It's because we don't want a nazir to be associated with people. Or be around people eating wine and grapes.
At least not either, certainly.
Right? So Tashma comes and says, what a worker says, a worker says, give it to my wife a banai, ain't shamelo, we do not listen to him. If you say it's a benefit, not a right, my ain't shamelo. It's a benefit, let him give the benefit to his wife and kids. So my poil, what does poil mean? It means nazir, it means a nazir. Tanya nazir. We have the other part says nazir. So this poil might be an actual worker. All right, Vatanya Nazir, Vatanya Payal. So the Gemara says, Mide Gabi Hadadi Tane. Were the two brises taught together? Was it the same brise? It wasn't. One brise was taught, one yeshiva, and there it says Nazir, and the other brise was taught in another yeshiva where they called the Nazir Payal, but it was the same thing. The Tashbat, he learns from the bottom of 9 Payal Shamitun Lish, Yubanai, Shane Shamilo. How do you know that a worker tells his, if he says, give to my wife and my kids my grapes, that we do not listen to them? It says over there, right, you should not go ahead and put it in your vessel to take home, to give to others. You can only go ahead and eat it. So that's the pasuk it brings. And if you say, the reason why you don't give to his wife is because he's a nazir, that's the case. What was the reason we gave? We gave the reason of, we said, no, you shouldn't put it in your vessel. You should only eat it on the spot. So you shouldn't have answered that if we're talking about a nazir. What was the teretz we just gave 1 minute ago? Mishum lech amrina nazira. Who? Right? We should have given the other teretz of keep the nazir away from the wine and the grapes. So when it says Einach Hanami, you're right. So why do we give this teretz when it talks about payal? It's a worker reason and not a nazir issue. But I did the Tony love b'lashon payal, since they use the lashon of payal, not use the lashon of nazir. Therefore, we brought a pasuk applying to a worker and not a pasuk applying to a nazir. So Tashma, come listen, bottom line has a person goes ahead and hires workers to go ahead and to cut things and to dry them out. Such a person is able to go ahead and partake of the he's allowed to go ahead and partake of the figs. And he's allowed to go ahead and eat it, and he's pater from taking meiser, right? Because he's an employee before that is fit for meiser. However, he says, if he says in the condition that me and my kid can go ahead and eat, so or my kid can go ahead and eat in lieu of me, he's allowed to go if he both of us can eat, he can eat, and he's pater from meiser. Ubano and his son but his son who eats it is chayiv. But no, my chayiv. I understand it. If it's his, so why should his son be chayiv? Right, his son, if it knows if it's his, just like the worker's compensation package is that he can go ahead and eat the fruit without paying meiser or without taking off meiser. So too, his son should be the same thing. It's the same money. So Amaravina mishum demichzei kamekach. When his son is eating, it looks like the son wasn't working in the field. The son was over there. So when the son goes ahead and get that, remember, this case is not a proof because he stipulated before. Remember, a person can stipulate before, right? Let's make a deal. I'll work, and you can give them that. That's okay to do, right? So, but the point is over here that since I'm giving a party who's now working the field, it looks like he's buying it, and that person's not taking meiser. So it's almost like Marasayan, that they see that he's the son is eating without taking meiser. Therefore, we say, it's nichse kamekach. Go ahead, please take off meiser. So Tashma, come and listen. A person was hired to go ahead and work on a tree. Now this tree is in its 4th year. So we know that the first 3 years of a fruit tree is orla. You can't go ahead, all the pears are aser. The 4th year, right, it's treated like ma'aser sheni. In other words, I can go ahead and take it to Yerushalayim, or I can redeem it and bring the money to Yerushalayim. And the 5th year now, the fruits are always good, right? But at the 4th year, it's not teravai. So you can't go ahead and eat it on the spot. You have to basically be paid. So a person was hired to go ahead and work it, but not teravai. Shalom, right? Workers cannot go ahead and eat from there. However, if the employer did not tell them that you guys are working from Neter Ravai, and they thought, okay, we're working from an apple tree, we'll go ahead and eat the apples while we work. We don't need to bring our lunches today. Then the owner goes ahead and has to redeem for them, and they can go ahead and partake. Now, and if you say they're Hashem's that allows them, it's a right from Hashem, right? Why do we have to go ahead and out of the way for him to go ahead and redeem it and to feed them? Right? The Torah doesn't need to go out of its way to matir something that's That's usher. In other words, this is neta ravai. So you shouldn't have a right. In other words, your rights don't come ahead of this neta ravai. So it should be usher. Why are we finding a reason? It must be that the reason is because it would be his private money. It's a benefit, not a right. The Torah doesn't give rights in something. It's usher. So our answer is Hasa Mishum de Mikse Kamekachos. Over there, it appears like the person is able to go ahead and work there, but normally a worker is entitled to fruit. By him not being entitled, it's like I was hired under false pretenses, and therefore it shouldn't be employment. So therefore, in order to go ahead, we want to go ahead and feed him. Therefore, the owner has to go ahaid and redeem. Same as Seifa. Let's look at the Seifa, very similar. These parts Golov are on the Faschu Chav Yosef. So let's say a person was hired to go ahead and put back together the pressed fig cakes fell apart, or the barrel spilled. Hare elu lo yoichlu. Right? Such a person cannot go ahead and eat because these are already subject to, as we saw in the previous Mishnah, these are already subject to Meiser. And once subject to Meiser, you can't just go ahead and eat from it. It's only when he's dealing with before the Meiser. So these were already pressed fit cakes. These were already in a barrel of wine ready to go. And these people were hired to clean up the mess afterwards, right? So they're not allowed to go ahead and eat. But if he didn't inform them, he says, okay, I hired to deal with my figs or with my wine, then machilon, right? Then master machilon. Then the owner has to go ahead and take meister and feed them. So via Martin Mishal Shemaim who and I understand if these we say Mishal Shemaim, so my meister machilon. Why do we say the owner has to go ahead and take meister and feed them? See, sir, the Torah will not give him something that's usher. So. Okay, you say, okay, well, we just had basically the same kash, and I'll give you the tears. So if you say, oh, well, if they go ahead and work this, these were done under false pretense because the guy thought he can go ahead and eat from it. So okay, so that might stand in the case of when the figs come apart, because I see figs there. Maybe they were just figs that were drying out before Meister, and therefore I could partake of it. I didn't know that it was pressed upon Chayiv Meister and then came apart, but they were still Chayiv Meister, so I wouldn't be able to eat. I didn't know that. But if the barrels, right, were opened, my mekav tosika, right? If the barrels were open and I have to go ahead and recover it or it's spilled out, what is mechatos? I know that it was already in barrels. If it was already in barrels, it was already obligated in meiser, and therefore I shouldn't have a right to do it. So I can't claim, oh, I thought I was going to be able to partake of the food that I was working with, because I can't say that it was already in the barrels. So Rav Shei said, no, when the barrels spilled back into the pit, right, to the large vat. In other words, basically, they would go ahead and make the wine, put in a large vat, right? Then put in a barrel. Once it's in a barrel, it's Chayiv Meiser. So we're not talking about a case of cleaning out the barrel. The barrel spilled back into the large vat, and therefore the worker was hired to take from the vat, put in the barrel. He had no idea that the wine was already in the barrels that was already obligated to Meiser. He thought it was the earlier stage. So therefore, he has to go ahead and take Meiser from it. So in that case, skip the line. I'm going to use two hands, right? Yeah. We learned in the Bryce. It says yayin. So when is yayin obligated for meiser? Mishiyar labor, right? When it comes into the pit or to the vat, right? And in Rabbi Kiva, so answer. So it should be once it's in a bore, it's Chayiv and Meister. You don't even need the barrel part; it's already in the bore. So the answer no, Rabbi Kiva, no. It means over there when you put it in, it begins to ferment. When you take the scum off the top, that's when it becomes Chayiv Meister. So you had no idea then. I didn't know that the scum wasn't that it was taken off already. So maybe we could tell him. So don't claim that, hey, I thought I could be able to go ahead and partake of the wine, because maybe he should have had thought that, hey, it's possible if I'm working with the wine while it's in the bore, that there's a chance that it was ready. They already took all the scum off the top, and therefore it's Chayiv Meiser and I can't partake of it. Maybe you should have thought that. The answer is no. The one who goes ahead and takes the wine from the vat or from the bore or the cistern, right? he's the one that takes off the scum. So therefore, if I was hired to do that, I would. It is a fair assumption to say that I had no idea that it was already chayv meiser. And now, now we can even use this teres because that was Rabbi Yosha taught. Yayin, when is Yayin obligated Mishia or labor when it goes to the Yikveh? So according to the Rabbi Yosha, he says when wine enters into the bor, right, and they skim off the top. And Rabbi Kiva Omer, no, no, it's not that point. It's even after that. Once it's that the second time they put in the barrels and take off and skim the top of the barrels. So if even you can do that case, now we could even say that the wine never spilled back into the bor, and that's why there was confusion. He assumed that it was, pater. It wasn't chayv ma'asers. Yes, we can say that it was ready in the barrels according to Rabbi Kiva. Right? I knew they were in the barrels, but I didn't know that they were in the barrels and already they skimmed the top. Maybe you should tell him. I said, but maybe they could claim, hey, maybe they were already placed in the barrels and it was skimmed on top, and therefore they were chayv ma'aser. Maybe you show that first. So where he answers no, no, it's the one who goes ahead and puts in the barrels. He's the one who goes ahead and skims it. Therefore, since he was hired to go ahead and deal with the barrels, so therefore he did not really think that they were already obligated to meister. So Tashma, come and listen around 60% of the way down. So Tashma, 65. A guy can go ahead, turn to his slick guy. He turns to this guy who was employing one of these following people, and he says, you know what? He can do for himself. In other words, I can go ahead and a guy is employing, right? Avrami is employing my my wife, or my children who are gedolim, or my avadim who are gedolim, and he's employing them. And I say, instead of, even though they have rights to go ahead and eat from your field,
Eat your air conditioner.
right? Eat your air conditioners, right? They have a right to go ahead and eat from there. Nevertheless, don't go ahead and they won't take and give me extra money. Okay, so that's what he's allowed to go ahead and do. We'll soon see why. Why? Because if they agree to work, right, then they agree to this condition because they're bendas. They can be Michael and say, okay, I'm not going to go ahead and eat. But he can't go ahead and do that for his minor children, or his avadim, or his female or male maidservants, and not for his animal. If he rents my animal, I can't say, okay, don't feed him and just pay me a little extra because they don't have das. Not. But my lamb is honest. Okay, we're talking about, okay, what shaykhs does the father or the owner or the husband have? Why should their food go to him? Because maybe we're talking about a case where he feeds them. Now, since I feed them, right? Don't feed them. It'll be on me, but pay me a little extra. Now, so now, we're still handling that question. If you think that the one who eats it has the right from a Mishal Shemaim who right? If it's a right to, and because of that, because he's already being because of that, if his minor children, so therefore he can't go ahead and make a deal, right, for them. But if we're saying that really it's a benefit to the worker, so katana nami nikaslu, right? Since the katana eating by him, why is it's something that's given to them? So let him go ahead and be able to go ahead and do it, right? So we're talking about he does not go ahead and feed them, right? That's not the case, and therefore he can't go ahead and feed it. Therefore he can't make the right that can be meichos, right? So the Gedolim, why should he be able to go ahead and stipulate this? So the Gedolim, right? The Gedolim knew that they were working for it. They wouldn't go ahead and be fed. In addition, that extra money for being fed would go to their father or their owner, right? So therefore, they know the Kamachli and they're Michael. Tani Rabbi Yosha. So now we're going to bring a brisa to argue on one point. Tani Rabbi Yosha. A person go ahead and make a deal on behalf of himself for his wife. Avalo ayidei behemto, but not for his animal. Vayidei beno bito hagdailim. He can go ahead and make a condition that pay him instead of his beno bito hagdailim. Avalo ayidei bito beno bito haktanim, not the younger ones. So everything has been the same so far. The kaitz ayidei avda v'shivchasa knanim bein gedailim bein katanim, except for old or young. Now, until now, we said you can do for the gedalim because they can be meichel, but you can't do for the katanim because they're not bar mechila, they're not bar das. So in my love, edim my love was is it not? This also.
Know not to eat in the field, you make their condition.
I'm sorry.
Are they bardas enough to know not to eat?
Well, you say in this case, yeah, I mean they can be told what to do, but they don't have a right to be meichel, right? They can follow orders, but they don't have like that type of decision making. Right? Good question. So my lab, Amazonas, both these this brisa Rav Osha and the mission we brought before are both cases where we provide food here. So what's the machlokes when it comes to avadim that are katanim? The mar savar mishlo eichel. One who holds that we say that he's eating from him, and therefore that's the case of the Bryce, and therefore since he's eating from him, the father provides it, so therefore it goes to the father, right? But my son is Shemaim, but the other one says no, it's Shemaim, and therefore it can't be the rights can't be given over to the owner. Whereas low, no, that's not true. The kuli we can say Mishlo Eichel, right? No, really, he eats of his own, right? One is when he does not go ahead and provide mazonos, and therefore he can't go ahead and make the deal. The Bryce of mazonos, and the Bryce is talking about a case where he gives mazonos, and therefore he's able to go ahead and make that stipulation for the young avadim. So B'maya keep the Ba'al Mazonas. So we're talking about a case of where he does provide for them. So Yihachi Katanim Nami. So what are the Katanim? If the father is providing for his kids, so let his kids go ahead and work without being able to go ahead and eat and pay the father extra. So Ryan says no. Yihachi Katanim Nami. So Nikas Lahu, we should be able to go ahead and make that stipulation. So Ryan says no. Tzarai the Bita Katanim. So he says. Therefore, no, is it tsar did not go ahead from b'no ktanim, and therefore the Torah the Torah did not go ahead and give him for his young sons and daughters if they can't go ahead and eat. So Gemara says, "B'mayu keep the what's this time on the case Lamas Nisan." Okay, so what was the case of the Mishnah? Let's review. Well, the case of the katanim, where he was not able to go ahead and make the stipulation for the avadim or katanim, she'ein lam mazonos, because he wasn't providing food for them. So top of the page. So this Shapir. So if he's not providing, so in other words, if the owner is not allowed to go ahead and say work without work for me, and I'm still not going to go ahead and support you. So therefore, he can't say that in this case. That's the reason why I can't be Michael. But a person can say, you can work for me and I will not sustain you. Michael Neymar. What are you going to say then? He should be able to go ahead and say, work for him and you won't get food and I'll get that money. Rather, both the Mishnah and the Bryce are both referring to a case of where he did not go ahead and support them. What's the machlokes? The marsava yachol, marsava ein yachol. So the machlokes kufa is what he's not providing for them. The question is whether one can go ahead and force someone to work without providing sustenance for them and just get their paycheck, and they got to get a second job to feed themselves. So therefore, the one who says he could says yachol, right? The one who says ein yachol, he can't. The one who says Rabbi Yechon demer yachol Rav shavim masizin never of a brayse. So the Rav says, Rabbi Yechon says. He appears to hold like the Brisa, not the Mishnah. Now, normally, if we have a contradiction between the Mishnah and the Brisa, we hold like the Mishnah, not the Brisa, because the Mishnah is more accurate. So, Ella the Kuli Al Mishal Shemayim. Rather, maybe you can say that it's really Mishal Shemayim, V'loif Matzi Kapsis, and there he can't go ahead, and it's not really the case. It's Mishal Shemayim. And he can't go ahead and make a condition to extra get paid. So what was this whole katzitza that Rav Osha was talking about? My katzitza is Rav Osha. Zonos, he means like this. Pay me extra, I'll go ahead and feed them first. And therefore, they're not going to be hungry when they go ahead and eat you, right? And eat by you. So therefore, that's what cuts is. The cuts doesn't mean pay me extra. Rather, it means that, pay them higher wages, I'll feed them, and therefore, they won't go ahead and eat from you. So Victoria, I understand, Gabi Behemta, Tavaniko say, but that's the case. Well, what about the case of the animal? He said he can't do it by the animal because the animal is not a bardas. Right. But okay, why can't he make that same type of stipulation when it comes to the animal? So Ella, rather, what must we say? But kamifli, rather than machlekes over there between the Mishnah and the Brisa, why do they differ when it comes to avadim or katanim? Samar Sava Mishalohu Oichel. One says they are of his, and therefore, since the Brisa says they belong to him, therefore he is able to go ahead and be katan for the katan. But Mar Savar in the Mishnah, which says that he cannot go ahead and do it for the katan, Mishal Shemaim, and therefore, since it's Mishal Shemaim, he can't go ahead and make a condition with the katan, and therefore that's the machlokes, and therefore it remains a machlokes as to whether the right, whether it's a right or a benefit, or a right from Hashem, or a benefit, a financial benefit, is a machlokes between the Mishnah and the Brisa. Shkoyach. We'll stop here. Oh wow, it's a long one.